What's up guys, your friendly neighbor Demon here, bringing you a new video, and today we're going to be looking at some utility on Train. Specifically, we're going to be starting on the T side of, well, this whole video is going to be the T side of Train utility. That I know the essential stuff that I think you need to know for your T side on this map. It's obviously, it's quite a different kind of map in terms of utility and the way that it's used. I mean, it's still obviously the basic principles of utility, but there's some interesting lineups, some cool lineups, some nice jump throws for A site and the B site as well. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's take a look. So starting off with the A site, let's take a little gander around the A site and take a few principles away from it. So obviously T spawn is over here. You come through main. Is the main sort of entrance to it, and you can also come through Pop Dog, and there's the Ivy area entrance as well. So there's a few different access points for the T side to come into, and there's various bits of utility you can use from each access point. There's actually quite a lot to cover on this map, so I'm going to try and keep things brief. Firstly, let's take a look at a couple of basic smokes for outside of main area. So quite common, it's common to smoke this sort of E-box area and this sandwich area. I know two smokes for the sandwich area. There's a deep one and a shallow one, I think. First of all, let's look at E-box. Actually, this you can smoke. This is basically where you can smoke the shallow sandwich and the E-box area at the same time. You just get into the corner. You've got this chimney here and this chimney here. If you aim on the right chimney and on the wire just here, let that fly. That's just going to land over towards the E-box area, and that's essentially going to allow you to more comfortably peek out towards this area just here and trying to catch anyone crossing to pop. And it allows you to cut off the line of sight from a connector from the CT side, so they can't see towards main. The most likely thing you're going to do is you're going to pair that smoke though with the sandwich smoke, and there's two lineups. You could either stand in the same place and smoke it like that against that chimney. That should land in the sandwich area, the shallow sandwich area just there, and with those two smokes down, that's going to allow you to literally run out and take this area pretty easily, unless people on top of the trains or peeking towards this side of the E-box. It allows you to get out and take some space outside of main. Obviously the hardest thing to do is get out of main and onto the site, and then you can decide what to do after then. But there's another lineup for a deeper sandwich smoke, which I personally recommend. It essentially gives you a bit more space, but if you line yourself up on this corner just here, there's sort of this black, there's quite a few, this general area of the corner of the building you can sort of throw the smoke from. The one that I throw is there's sort of a black splodge on the texture just there. If you just aim on the edge of that and let that fly, and that's going to land in the deep sandwich area. That's going to allow you to push deeper towards the sandwich and clear this out, and then maybe have some teammates help clear out the hell area as well. And that's going to have the same effects, but with have a little bit more space towards this area. And it's also going to allow you to see top green, top red, and clear that a little bit better as you're taking the control outside. The next smoke I'm going to show you is a bit more technically hard to do. It requires a jump bind, most likely, to do it consistently, but it's smoking this back green area to cut off the line of sight from Ivy. Essentially what you do is you come out of T-spawn onto this cart, and you line yourself up on this pole on the cart, and then you've got this little AC unit on the top of the building. If you aim sort of in line with that, sort of along the edge of the building, if that made sense, along the edge out to the right a bit, I guess about a third of the way along this here, and you literally just jump through that just there. That's going to fly over the building. That should bounce on here and then land on the back green area. And that's going to deny all the info and cut off the Ivy player from helping towards the site area. Usually it's quite common to have an AWPer here, sort of helping with pop, helping with sandwich and hell, but this cuts off that entire angle. Quite common that you'll probably see someone try and go top green from this position. That's going to expose them quite nicely though, or they'll try and slip into hell and slip through here. But in this situation, if you're smoking back green, your most likely thing is you're probably trying to get someone to help and hold this sort of area. So, but it's a nice smoke to cut off a lot of the control that can come from an AWP that's playing Ivy. A couple of flashes over main, trying to entry. Maybe you're trying to go fast in this situation. There's not really any lineups that I can show you, but I can show you. There's a couple of principles that I can talk about. So as you're running in, to disrupt the CT side as they're coming through connector and everything, you could just throw, no, not like that. You could just throw a flashbang over towards the middle of the site, and that's going to just pop right in the middle of the site just there and blind everyone. But if you're going for the peak, sort of the usual peak towards connector just here, like this is quite a common thing to try and catch people crossing towards the E-box and the pop dog. You could throw a flash above the main area to try and catch them. Just literally throw one above the main entrance. They're most likely either going to be playing anti-flash, looking at the wall, or they're going to be looking towards main. And this flash above here, that's going to flash them, but because it's above the main area, that shouldn't really flash anyone that's actually inside main. Not at all. There you go, and it'll flash most people on towards the site, looking towards main. And then our last couple of bits of utility on the main area are a couple of Molotovs, really. I mean, you could probably throw a couple of grenades in this situation as well, but Molotovs really are going to help clear out for a significant portion of time to allow you to sort of make the CTs uncomfortable and get out onto the site. But most likely trying this Molotov, it's going to be smoked in the sandwich area. And what we want to do is we want to try and molly out the common positions on the site and push the CTs out to make them uncomfortable. Quite common. It's common for people to sit behind here. It's common for people to sit sort of on the middle of the train and everything. We want to molly those areas off. So firstly, obviously, as I said, the gap will probably be smoked just here. So the line of sight to main will be cut off. But you can aim at the floor and jump throw a Molotov over towards the back of the stop sign. And that's going to molly this entire area. So that no one can stand here as you're swinging out towards E-box and everything. That should leave that covered up. And then you can also throw a Molotov over this red train over to the default, the middle of the trains. So if you aim sort of a little bit to the left of this AC unit, a little bit above, and just do a little run throw just there, that's going to land on top of the bomb train. That's going to cut off anyone standing on the bomb train. Most likely it's going to spill over to this back of the site and force people back out into the open. That's going to make your gunfights easier as you try and round this corner, as well as people maybe trying to push the sandwich area. They know that this type part is going to be clear. A Molotov, when the Molotov's down on the stop sign, they know they're going to be sort of in this area, or they're going to be in connector, or maybe even heaven. And hopefully you will have the Ivy area smoked off as well, so you can comfortably sort of clear around here and take people out with those Molotovs. So moving on to the Ivy area of the map. So this is a bit of a small choke point, quite an easy way, sort of an easy choke point for someone to be holding in a way. I mean, it's actually quite hard to be an Ivy player in my opinion on both sides because of the narrow choke point. It's not hard to sort of aim in the general direction when it's just one hallway and to be looking down. But there's a couple of ways of sort of taking control of it as on the T side. One of the things to take away is maybe your IV player is a bit more of a lurker in a sense of trying to either take away attention from the sort of IV player to stop him helping towards the A site, or vice versa, that your site players are taking attention away from the IV player so that your player can lurk down IV. But there's a couple of bits of utility to help you take Ivy in the first place. You can either smoke one side or the other and use a Molotov in this way. So if we come into this corner, you aim at there's sort of this yellow mark. If you run forward and run throw just as you come to the bottom of this, it should bounce off and smoke the left side of Ivy just here. There we go. Nice little smoke filling that choke point, and the meta thing to do at the moment is to actually Molotov the other side, so that denies any information from the CT side how many players are actually on Ivy. So if you stand against the back wall and aim sort of at the top of this light and you run throw, that's going to land a Molotov on the right side to pair with your smoke. So let's do that sequence again. Hopefully I can get it right. So just run throw like that. And then we're going to step to the right. Don't step too far to expose yourself, just so you can see the light, and then just run through that Molotov. And then that's going to stop people peeking from the right. People can't see from the left. The thing you have to be aware of, people behind the server or in this corner just here. And then it allows you to come up Ivy and get closer to the actual site without taking any contact. And then you can take some closer fights and be more supportive of what you're doing towards this. Towards the round onto the A site. And then you should be able to mix and match either of these. So I could use the same lineup to just chuck a smoke down on the right side. So that's exactly the same molly lineup, and that's a nice fill gap there. Thing you have to be aware of is if you push CT, people can see you on top green over the top. And then similarly, you can throw flashbangs to support your teammates. So if you have one or two people up sort of further towards the Ivy area, you could then throw literally these are the same lineups, throw another flashbang like this. That's going to be a nice little pop flash for the Ivy area. That's going to blind anyone this side or this side of Ivy. Most likely they're not going to see it coming in time, and then your teammate can play anti-flash and swing on it depending on what side the smoke is on. So that's a nice little pop flash if you have multiple people down here. Okay, so moving on to taking control of the pop dog area. Obviously, this pop dog area is quite highly contested from the CTs. Quite usually, there's someone holding inside it or just outside, ready to swing anyone trying to take control. And it's an incredibly powerful position for the T side to take control of, simply because that allows 2 access points towards the front of the site to actually crunch on people, and it divides the attention nicely of the T side. So there's a nice pop flash you can do for pop dog. That being, if you just get yourself into this corner, I'm sure there'll be a couple more lineups that other people know do this, but this is one that doesn't bounce or anything. If you get yourself into the corner, not on top of the box, but into the corner of the box itself, then you aim on the corner of this, down in line with that splodge just there, and just right click throw that bad boy. That's going to land into pop dog with that bouncing, and other than the sound of the nade actually being thrown that you can hear, that's going to be a nice pop flash for anyone inside pop. They're going to be blind for nice and long, and that will allow your teammate to play anti-flash and then drop with the pop flash as it comes in and help you take control. It's common to nade and molly inside pop dog if you aim at the floor and sort of run throw, not fall down it, but you can do some pretty deep Molotovs to clear it out, or a nice Molotov by bounce off the back wall to clear out most of the area, and that will force people back towards the back of it. And it can also you can also nade again to do quite a lot of damage, and that can land pretty deep inside the pop dog. Most likely thing is they're going to run back once they see the nade, and they will take some damage unless they're playing right back at the door and get behind the door. So one last Molotov for the pop dog area. I think Gobby actually sort of discovered this Molotov and originated it. There's a couple of cool bits of utility inside pop dog that he came up with, I think. I don't know all of them though, but this is the cool one that I know. If you line yourself in the middle of this tile just here along the line, and then you stay crouched, you aim just off the corner of this area of the window, and then you stand up and then let that fly. That's going to bounce off the top just there, bounce off the box, and that's going to Molotov the entire door area of the pop dog area. And the cool thing is, if you pair it with another Molotov that I showed you a second ago, if you just do another run throw just like that, that's going to Molotov literally the whole area inside pop dog and force anyone out of it. Either force someone to smoke the Molotov as it comes down and waste utility on the CT side, or it will mean they just have to stand in it and die. Maybe even pairing it with a nade as well, if you double Molotoved it and naded it, slow someone down on the Molotov and take them out. So there's quite a lot of cool possibilities there for your T-side mollies inside Pop Dog. There are a few smokes you can throw through these top windows to help on the A site. Firstly, you can smoke back green like we did outside of main to help you take the A site. You can either throw it in line with this part of the brickwork on the bottom of the edge of the window, or you can do it slightly to the left. The only thing is it's a bit vague of doing it slightly to the left. I'll show you the difference though. So if you just do it in line with the brickwork just here, that's going to fly in and smoke, as we discussed, towards the back of green. The only thing is there will be a gap on the right, but that will cover up anyone pushing out onto the site from Ivy on this side of the smoke. It just means if you're pushing any players towards hell, they need to be wary of that just there. But let's see if we can get this right, with slightly to the left. That should hopefully get out the gap that we have. The only problem is it's quite a tight line from actually hitting the train itself just there. So let's see if we can get the gap filled a little bit. Oh, that's a Molotov. Throw the smoke, left click. That's going to be a bit tighter towards the train and land a little bit further to the left, and that will fill that gap slightly. So you can see I could do it even further, a little bit to the left. There is a tiny bit there, but you run the risk of actually hitting the train itself and missing the smoke completely. So if you want to play it safe, just do it in line with that brickwork. A couple of other smokes, quite common or reasonably common to execute in some circles, is smoking off this side and this side of the train. And you can do two of those smokes from up here. If you stand on the right side of this little electrical box just here, and you aim at the bottom of the shout of the sprinkler just here, double click and just let that fly, and that will land on the right side of the bomb train. And then you can smoke off the other side of the bomb train as well. If you line yourself up with this part of the brickwork just here, and then you aim sort of in the middle of this panel of glass just here. Obviously you've got to break it first, and then you double click throw again. Make sure you don't aim too low so it doesn't hit the bottom sill of the windowsill, and just let that fly. That's going to land on the left side of the bomb train. The only problem with this smoke, of both of these smokes really, is that people can have one-ways on the top of the actual bomb train itself, and get some sneaky kills through it. So maybe with coordination with your main player, and they threw the sort of the Molotov on top of the bomb train itself, and that will be a nice coordination to actually clear that out, avoid the one-ways, and at the same time just get in and maybe get the plant down at the same time. So moving on to the B site. So we know the B site well. There's literally just two choke points to come through on it. It's usual that you would have just one player playing or anchoring B most of the time. Especially towards the start of the round, you would often have 4 people moving towards the A site to help lock that down, since it is such a complicated site to hold in cases, especially with people rushing, etc. And then you just have one guy towards the B site on the CT side. But talking about utility to take the site, it's quite common to smoke the sort of catwalk area to get down the ramp. So literally just left click and throw like that. You can just smoke off that area to avoid people peeking from con and from towards the back grey area, and allows you to get down the ramp and start challenging towards the site. But if you want some more consistent lineups for smoking it off that area, there is one just here. If you get on top of the railing again and get in the middle of these 2 dots roughly, and then you aim, so there's sort of 2 poles in between these 2 close poles. If you aim the right hand one in the middle and just let that fly, that's going to bounce off the floor just there and land in that choke point just there like that. What you want to be careful of though is your smokes being a bit too shallow to the right. There will be a slight gap where you can see people crossing potentially. Good thing about this lineup though is you can also pair a flash with it for the ramp area. So if you aim, you've got these 2 wires on the light hanging. if you aim on the middle of the left wire just there and just let that fly, that's going to bounce off that left wall, and it's going to flash above the actual the ramp area. So anyone holding that grey just here, that should blind them just there. That will blind anyone towards that will blind anyone towards the con area potentially as well, but it won't blind them for very long because it's so far away. But it will make their vision a little bit more difficult, and it's also going to blind anyone sort of more towards this side of the area of the site as well. So it's a nice little pop flash you could use to help your entry into the site. There is another lineup you can use for that walkway as well. If you simply get in line against the back wall with this part of the wood, and you aim above the end of the arrow on the top side of the concrete, that's going to do exactly the same job. It is going to land a little bit deeper though, and it's going to sort of more guaranteed there's no gap just here as well. It's a slightly better lineup. Being slightly deeper as well, it's going to allow you to see anyone playing sort of this back top grey area a little bit easier, which is a good thing. If it's slightly shallower, it's going to be a lot harder to see people sort of up towards that top back grey area. Next smoke is going to smoke off the sandwich area to allow you to cross the site. Obviously, there's these really long range areas of sight on both sides, on both sites. Trains a really long range map, but you can smoke off and cut off any AWPers playing towards the back. And in this case, we're going to get again on the back wall, we're going to line ourselves up with this piece of the concrete, and we're going to use the same bit of the arrow and the same line up towards the top of the concrete. That's going to bounce in a very similar way on top of the concrete and land deep towards the back of the trains. So ideally, you're going to have someone smoke here, you're going to have someone smoke there, and you're going to be able to get down the ramp, cross, and start clearing all these areas of the site and allow yourself to plant on the default spot. And then similarly to the other spot, you could also throw a flashbang, a little dribble flashbang out of the top of the window. You can use the same lineup, and that's just going to bounce and hopefully help blind anyone again towards this this part of the site, as well as anyone playing the middle of the site and maybe even deeper angles just here. So moving on to more of the upper area of the B site, it's quite a hard choke point to get out of because of the eyes that can potentially be on it. There could be a lot of places towards the back of the site, sort of connector, top of the red train. That's quite a common spot. The back of the bomb train here. The upper area, there's so many places that people can spot you from, even top oil. And the meta thing at the moment is actually just to smoke it off sort of just outside the doorway, to cut off all of these angles that people can be, allow you to get out the doorway, support towards the site, and potentially even just drop down using the smoke and overwhelm the site players. The way you can do that is you can simply get yourself into this. You do sort of want to half clear anyone playing sort of these angles just here. It's quite common for people to be up here or in behind the box, so you just want to clear that out first, and then you get into this corner, and then you can aim just to the right of the door that you see just here. Just left click throw. That's just going to bounce nicely off the wall and then just land just outside the doorway, and that's going to allow you to sort of help challenge towards the site in different ways, and allow you to comfortably drop towards the site and help challenge things. Helps you to clear out the spools area and anyone playing sort of around here, and help your ramp players get out as well. A lot of the places you can flash from in the upper area, you can pair it with a flash, and this is a cool little flash that lands and bounces off the top of the frame just here. If you get in the same corner and then you aim on the bottom left side of this ducting just here and just let that fly, that's going to bounce off the wall and bounce off of the top of there, but it will help flash people playing towards some of the closer angles. Quite a common angle is being the back of the bomb train. That's going to blind people there, and it will blind people towards the back as well, but again, much like the flashes close to the ramp, it's not really going to do much. On that note, you will want people just to throw some random flashes potentially a little bit deeper towards the back of the site to help flash people towards the back and blind people for longer, just in a sort of a rough way. That's going to help blind people a little bit longer. But that's a nice little flash to do. You don't necessarily need to break the glass as well. The glass is already broken when I threw that flash, but the flash will break the glass. It just won't quite bounce as far. It will still do a very similar job though. You can just bank some flashes towards the site as well from upper. It's quite a common thing to Molotov up this door on the post plant. You can dump a flash towards the site and really help the entries. Obviously, as long as you get the timing right to help your players get down the ramp. If you flash before that, you could flash off the wall as well and just have one slightly deeper. It's all up to you in terms of these offhand flashes to make sure you get the timing right on your players coming down the ramp potentially. So a strong part of the meta at the moment is smoking a little bit or towards the deeper side of the site. In particular, this, much like we smoked here and here, basically smoking the connector area and between this area just here. And there's a couple of smoke lineups you can obviously do for that as well. If we come to here where we actually lined up one of our other smokes, you aim at the bottom of the at the top of the actual light fitting just here and do a walking throw. That's going to smoke over towards the connector area. That's going to land nicely to deny people information from here, but it was also going to help deny people trying to one-way on top of the railing. They can't really see that. They'll have to jump right on top of the train and expose themselves to you as you run down. The point of smoking these choke points off is so you can basically run down all the way down and get close to them, trying to retake the site before they actually make the retake a lot harder to actually get going, rather than being stuck sort of at the back of the site, allowing a lot of long range sights towards the post plant. And then to smoke off this choke point just here as well on the deep side of the site, you can come to the exact same place again that we smoked off. It's pretty much the same lineup actually as the other one. We just had to be a bit more accurate. If you come in line with this part of the wall just here, you have to be a bit more accurate with it because of the uneven floor. If you aim again towards the back of the arrow, but this time we need to make sure we're aiming actually in line with the very edge of the paint. And again at the top of the concrete, and then this time it's a walk throw. You have to basically throw it just as you walk, otherwise it will go too deep, but just let that fly just as you start walking, and that'll bounce on the floor and land nice and deep just here as well. You can see that even went pretty deep, and the reason you have to make sure you're aiming quite accurately is because the uneven floor just here it actually makes the stuff bounce kind of weird, and it can bounce over to the left or to the right and leave quite big gaps. You can see how smoking off this area and this area with some other utility, you're cutting off some really long range sites, and you can sort of push down here, clear the back of grey, clear the back of the site, and get up close and personal. I think that's all I've got for train at the moment. I think they're all sort of the more essential parts of util that you could use on the map, on the T side that is. They're sort of some basic stuff, some basic smokes and executes you could use in different combinations, different timings to help your T side of training get in control of the map. Obviously, we all know how hard it is to get out of actually onto the sites on train. There's very little room to work with. So hopefully these bits of utility that I've shown you will help. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know maybe some util that I might have missed that would have been really helpful, or what you think I could do to improve. I really want to hear what you think. And yeah, subscribe to the next one, and we'll see you soon.